Hi, good evening. I'm going to call this meeting of the Neighborhood Plan Committee in order. First up on the agenda, we have our let's take attendance first, I'm sorry. So Dylan?
Yep. Bernal?
Here.
Elliot Pahinui?
Here.
Melendrez?
Here.
Oshiro? Here. Smith?
Here.
Verre?
I'll address it.
Thank you. And Yorinaka?
So Larry Verre was actually here up to a moment ago in person, but he had a family emergency which he had to leave. So I'm sorry, but he was actually here. I just wanted to note that for the record. All right, so first up on our agenda are public concerns. Do we have someone in person that would like to speak to a public concern? So please state your name and your concern, please.
Hello, this is Laura Ruby. I live in Mo'ili, but I have attended over 5 neighborhood boards for numbers of times. And I also watched the last presentation of the neighborhood plan, and I did not see anything that would help meetings go faster and more civil. Let's put it that way. And one is that there are term limits for who can serve, length of time a person can serve as a chair, and also that a person should be allowed to have a double term, or whatever you would associate with it. So that, because you get up to speed after 1 year and you're much better at it. The other thing is that there would be, and some of the meetings had actually timers or time limits, and that would be somebody could only take 2 times on any one issue. That's reasonable, but others just went on and on and on. And one person coming back again and everything. It was just unbelievable. And then the other thing is that the time management for the chairs are often very irregular, and lots of times running right up to the end of the meeting and not getting full discussion and everything. So I think those would be the main things that I want to say, that if you can put it in the plan, those would help the meetings go faster and people would be more enthusiastic and everything. And there's other ones that come, and I just one of the things, they stuck to the mayor's rep or whatever it is, and they go on and on and on with all the problems, every pothole or whatever they want to talk about. And there should either be a committee on the board that takes care of all of those things and just hands them off to the mayor's rep and lets him he or she deal with bigger issues, something like that. That would also speed up the meetings also. And I have to say, with all the meetings, the 5 meetings that I did, not very big attendance at all. The general public, very low attendance, and even the boards, they barely make quorum. So how do you change that? Those would be the main things that I noticed. I'm observing from 5 different boards.
Thank you. I will say that we are specifically now dealing with the complaint procedures. We will circle back at some point to talk about the boards and the management of the boards, like if we consider term limits or whatever, and any other type of decorum issues. So at that time, and if we can remember, I'll certainly reach out to you, but okay. I might forget, so.
Okay, email.
Yeah, and I would suggest we do have, I think, a specific email for the plan committee, and they can send you the agenda so you can see actually
let's see.
which ones
well, this is a no reply. I got this.
Right.
I just get Laura, here's my card. Okay. Email me and I'll make sure that everything else gets
yes. It. Okay, with that's your complete right.
Right.
Thank you.
And that next week is your regular meeting, which you address.
No. We're on recess this week.
Will the next time you actually physically meet?
Next time would be July. It's the 4th Monday of the month.
I saw it somewhere.
So 1, 2, 3,
26th?
4. July 28th.
28th. Okay. And
yes.
That time it will be the regular general meeting.
Yes.
And points from the whole year.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Absolutely.
Great to see you, Laura.
Okay. Good to see you. We'll keep in touch.
So just to make it clear, the next regular meeting of the commission will be on July 28th. So with that said, are there any other public concerns? And I will take them, I think, in order. Hopefully, Dylan.
Austin Salcedo.
Austin Salcedo. I hope I said that correct, sir. Please go ahead.
Yes, that's correct. Can everybody hear me? Nod your head, please.
Yes.
Can,
Okay,
Austin.
thank you so. Aloha, Kathleen. Anyway, it might be out of context, but viewing your May 19th agenda, section agenda number 8 under section C, 2025-04, Salcedo versus Endo, Wilbur, and Jordan. The three main names are here are neighborhood board officials, but because I had cited decorum violation because of a nonprofit organization came before the neighborhood board committee, and no one had, even though the nonprofit organization was totally out of alignment, and they didn't call for uh, point of order or recess. And
Excuse me.
anyway, maybe this is out of context of what your agenda is. But what I'm trying to get
It is, sir. I know, but that is actually for the commission. It's the substance of a complaint.
Yeah.
Um,
I didn't.
when
Just to
it-
let you know, sir, I didn't receive any uh, solution for my complaint. But what I'm trying to get through is, throughout all this smoke that I'm talking about right now, is through your neighborhood plan, please incorporate some type of language in there to about nonprofit organizations that is operated by neighborhood board officials. There's a conflict of interest and ethics violations here, because it cannot support the community if they have a conflict of interest in nonprofit organizations. That's what I'm trying to get through. Because if you had legislations on the state laws and they're involving themselves with voting or even submission of some type of resolution or bill, and they are affiliated with the nonprofit organization, there'll be a conflict of interest. And we have a lot of neighborhood board officials have the same scenario of nonprofit organization affiliation, and they sit on the board and not bringing across the intent of the community's discussion or absorbing it, but they're creating a little chaos here because of the conflict of interest. So language in here, you cannot be an official and yet be part of a nonprofit organization that's in question. Okay, can you incorporate into the neighborhood plan? Because
Yeah, we came to, if you wrap it, sir, if you would wrap it up, I'm sorry, your time is ending. If you could maybe wrap it up in a sentence or so, if you want to summate.
If any neighborhood board officials is part of a nonprofit organization, they need to recuse themselves from any type of decision making or voting authority. That's the summary on that completely. They cannot vote.
Okay, thank you.
They got to recuse themselves, like the legislatures.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, we're not really at that point in our neighborhood plan review, but when we do, we will consider that. And if you would look out for when we're on, or when that comes up on our agenda, you can speak to it specifically at that point, but we will consider it. Thank you very much for your testimony.
No, I
Austin,
appreciate it. Please incorporate
just
it.
check with me, Austin.
Huh?
Just check with me.
Oh,
That's
I sure will. Thank you.
Next
Thank
up,
you.
thank you.
Claire Santos.
Claire, go ahead, please.
Sorry, I had a little unmute issue. Aloha, thank you, Chair, thank you, Commission. Quickly now, with all due respect, because you have a big agenda tonight, I do agree with the term limits, so when that comes up in your agenda, I will certainly be on it. 2 on, 1 off, and the chair position has to rotate with each election. No fiefdoms, no squatting, no cronyism. As you are aware, Chair Smith, I will be pursuing district, sub-district changes for neighborhood boards 10 and 11 to make Punchbowl whole again as far as the special district guidance Punchbowl core is concerned, and we'll be pursuing that this week. Thank you. And finally, as an aside off the subject, does anyone have a link to talk to the Charter Commission folks? They exist, they're in session, but there's no way that I can find to connect with them to address issues. Yeah.
Claire, this is Kathleen Paikinui. Nice to see you.
Hi, Kathy. Hi.
Give Kevin Wong at the Managing Director's office a call. Kevin, I believe, is is helping the Charter Commission.
Got it. Thank you so much, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commission.
just to be clear, it's actually, neighborhood board 10 and 12, not 10 and 11, okay? Just,
Oh, sorry, I lost my
Oh, no
alphabets.
no worries, just wanted to make that clear for everybody. If they look on the map, they may say, what the heck?
What?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Great.
Greg Marsakian, go ahead, Greg, please.
Aloha, Chair and members of the committee and everyone here. Let me lower my hand. Yeah, first I'd like to make a comment regarding Ms. Ruby's statements earlier, and she's alluding to some concerns regarding the Waikiki Neighborhood Board meetings where they've kind of devolved into not presenting things properly. So I'll say this first. There's three things I'm going to try to do very quickly in my time. The first thing, you're here as a committee to go over the neighborhood plan. The one thing that's continuously violated by members of the board that I serve on, I'm still serving on at the moment, the Waikiki Neighborhood Board. It's routinely an issue where the neighborhood plan is being violated, the sunshine laws are being violated. That happened at the most recent meeting where I actually had an OIP opinion on 3 different agenda items. And even after that opinion was given from OIP directly to the chair and to the NCO, the chair chose to violate the sunshine law openly in front of everybody, even when I raised point of order twice on one of the agenda items. So there was another agenda item that was openly violated. I didn't raise point of order. I let them, fall on the sword is the term. There will be further complaints coming forward. This committee is trying to rewrite things so that you actually don't have to do the work that you should be doing. Though the work is resolving complaints, resolving issues, overseeing things that aren't done correctly. The elections were not done correctly. They completely violated the neighborhood plan. They should be nullified, voided, redone. It's a stain on the NCO. It's a stain on the city and county of Honolulu, the mayor's office, the managing director who oversees this, his office. You were aware of it. Other officials were aware of it. There's many errors, but the most glaring is that the ballots were all incorrect. So that needs to be corrected. Not correcting it is going to continuously churn this problem where we don't have honest, fair boards. We don't have integrity and ethics within our neighborhood commission. So these are the things I want to bring to the table today. You know my feelings, I've shared them before. I need you to look hard and clear at the Waikiki Neighborhood Board. The chair of that board, in my opinion, should have been removed a long time ago for cause, and I continue to say that. Watch the meeting from the most recent Waikiki Neighborhood Board session that we had, and you will understand very clearly. I was holding up the OIP opinion, and they still violated that. I think there were 5 Waikiki Neighborhood Board members. So with that said, I know you've got a lot to do today. We'll get to some more things later. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. I just would clarify that the commission does not adjudicate the sunshine laws. That is OIP. Just so everybody knows, it's clear. We can't make rulings on the sunshine law.
You don't make the rulings, but you do. But the board members comply, and it is part of the complaint process, and that's something that OIP has opined on. That the commission should actually be addressing. So I think that's to be adjudicated later, because that is not a clear statement from OIP. That's something that's only coming one-sided from the neighborhood commission office and the
All right, I thank you, Greg. Thank you. I think we get what you mean, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have more?
Pikachu Shelby billionaire.
Oh,
Pikachu Shelby billionaire?
yeah.
Aloha guys, how are you, NCOs?
Hi, Shelby.
Usually I'm filming the Olelo stuff. We just filmed today by The Rise. That keeps on coming up on the agenda. I know Salcedo's were leaking about it, but we filmed them last year in September. Carla Hauser comes up, tried to drop her whole Rise project on us. We don't have anything wrong with the program or with the kids. However, they're trying to shove it down our throats. They demoed the whole building. You can see it on my social media and everyone else's. Words got heated. Andrew Topola, to me, it's a Republican versus a donkey thing. I'm in neither both parties. But as a younger generation talking to you, Kapun, and older generations, Our last reps was both Democrats, Miley Shimabukuro and Cedric Grace. However, now we have Samantha Court, Chris Morrick, and all of them who are Republicans. They got 0 bills passed. 0 out of the entire GOP. The Salcedos and me wrote SB 1249 to help protect our future agricultural crimes and Duke Piazla to honor his death and what they sacrificed for. But we're having issues with these politicians coming down, trying to shove it down their throats. The asbestos is bad for 10 years. They didn't talk nothing about that. They put the water in. We got everybody there. No issues addressed. And then we still have to talk to the residents. I said, you're not addressing the main concern. I caught the bus there. If I'm going to be like one of them, I catch the bus. It's so much kilau by the Makaha 7-Eleven. There's homelessness everywhere. You got to catch the bus all the way up the road. One of the residents died because they zoomed by trying to catch the bus, and he got killed. There's no sidewalks on the road. It's a private street. There's no street lights. I do not recommend any female go down that road, especially at night. It is not safe. So how come we have to keep on bringing this up on the agenda? When it shouldn't be on the agenda, Philip Ganaban is leaving. I love him as a brother from another, but he can't handle the stress working Chris's office. We were supposed to make a deal January with Malia from the Nanakuli board to try to have our joint committees together because 96792 has become impotent. Every time we go to the board, they end up arguing. The last meeting, we had no community concerns. Philip just breezed through the whole thing. We're changing officers, and some of these rookie guys coming in have no clue. They can't handle bills, laws. They're not in the capital. They're not in city council, not in legislation. And that's why we got fighters like the Salcedos, every from the neighborhood boards, because we is frustrated. They need training. They need something because they're trying to use this to run for office again next year. And so I'm concerned about how they're using the boards to placate themselves, make that money, and clean the money through the nonprofits because they're not paying taxes, trying to be Pono. That's my concern. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Aloha.
Last one I see, it's Austin Salcedo's account, but I believe it's his wife this time.
Calais.
Yes.
Calais Salcedo?
Salcedo.
Salcedo.
Yes, I'm
Yes,
Calais
please go
Salcedo.
ahead.
I'm Calais Salcedo. Okay, what I want to say, my complaint is the NCO knows Waianae neighborhood board been having issues for the longest time. And they do not take the consideration in the committee. It's like the mindset already. You know, they're like a dysfunctional family. But when you have to turn around call point of order, and they do not, you got a lot of them that's members on the board that's with nonprofit organizations. I do not agree that the NCO is entertaining things like this. When there's a violation of the neighbor plan, a violation, it needs to be addressed. We are addressing it. We want it done properly. But when you have a committee meeting and someone drops the F-bombs and no one calls point of order and you're on a neighborhood board, that's a problem. That's aiding and abetting. We cannot allow a neighborhood board or NCO adding and abetting this type of issues. If they want to be a dysfunctional family, please remove yourself from board because we had enough on a neighborhood board not listening to the committee. We're not getting in there because we want to. We're in it because of the community concern, our safety and well-being. We're not in for the politics or politics. But if you put a neighborhood plan and you violate your neighborhood plan, aren't they supposed to be held accountable for the actions? We don't make the laws, we follow the laws. But do not turn around and say, oh, the community is, going to gripe about everything. No. If the neighborhood board is honest and legit and they can be one Pono family work instead of shooting each other in the feet and putting themselves out there, we wouldn't have this problem. They're a dysfunctional board. Now we're going to have one other board with more people they're dysfunctional too. But the NCO needs to hear the community, not just hear only the board. And we need to be heard as a committee, a resident in the 96792. Do not silence the people. Do not silence the kupunas. Do not silence the resident. You are there to listen to your committee. If you're not going to listen to your committee and you're going to be there for your own personal gain, please take that into consideration and remove yourself because
Okay.
we are not.
Thank you. Art, can you wrap it up, please?
I want
And
to
maybe
wrap it up.
summarize?
Don't
I
put
didn't
a
mean wrap it up. That's probably not
don't
a
put
good
a
expression.
plan. Don't put a plan, an NCO plan, and you're gonna allow the aiding and abetting, the violation by our own neighborhood board. I'm not a one-hit wonder. I'm a concerned grandmother, mother, and great grandmother. I'm concerned. You're compromising the well-being and safety. Do not compromise the well-being and safety. We have more than our share of all
Thank you.
types of things, more than our shares.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any further public concerns from anybody else in the community that has been heard? Hearing none, we will move on our agenda to our approval of committee minutes. Did anyone want to submit any amendments to our May 12th meeting? Hearing none, we will accept them as distributed. Thank you very much. And so we can move on to new business. And these are, hope everybody has seen the shared drive. There was a current complaints proposal that's complaints proposal for 250603, and that was just the date it was submitted. So that's the one that we will be working with. I will make a couple comments first. All the days are highlighted in green, if you've seen those, and that is simply because, if you notice on the agenda, I asked for us to review all the days, because there's some that are business days, other working days, and it's just so we can have consistency. And I think if we change one of those that concerns the hearing officer, if we change it just from days to business days, it's gonna really lengthen the process. So it's just something that we need to be concerned with. So with that said, we can actually take up the individual items, or unless anyone has any committee members have any general comments about these specific items, or items in general, we can go specific item by specific item. Okay, hearing none. So if we could start out by looking at all these will be 218, 101C1. And if you could see, previously it was said that if there were complaints that were deemed to arise out of similar circumstances, after talking about it, it seems like a more general provision is probably in line, and that's when, just if it has any defects, and it just allows the petitioner to resubmit and correct the defects. And the problem is if we were to have, they would just be, not allowed, then the time to make a complaint might pass. And so this allows the petitioner to be reconsidered. So anyway, so to more generalized, I don't know if everybody's happy with the language.
No.
Okay. No, that's no problem. So why don't I read it real quick and then
Okay.
So request complaint and fix any substantial defects to the filing, including but not limited to combining separate complaints, provided the time to file does not toll until such notice of such defect is sent to the filer.
Okay. And this is a specific and a general complaint, and Kevin Lai was kind enough to explain what it totally means. I think part of our complaint process issue and confusion and problem is the fact that we have this written in language that I know it's lawyerese, and I know we have to make some concessions to that, but I feel very strongly that we need to make this so people can understand, because I think some of the problems that arise is because I have an interpretation that may not agree with somebody else's or the NCO's interpretation, and this causes a lot of confusion and issues and frankly hard feelings. So I get that this is a technical legalese term, but it doesn't, we're here to facilitate and make it easy for the public if they have concerns like we've already heard tonight from the community. And it doesn't help if I you know, and I consider myself an educated person, if I have no idea what does not toll mean, I'm sorry, I just don't know what it means. And I don't think and that's not fair to the rest of us. So that's and I think that also goes in general for the entire plan, that wherever possible, we need to write this in English so people can understand. I think it's really important, so thank you for that.
Thank you. We can go back and make at the next meeting, hopefully, we're getting to some conclusionary point, but yeah, I can look at that. Do we have any other comments regarding that provision from the committee?
So this, just clarification, Chair, this means that if somebody files a complaint and there's a problem with it, we're gonna give them the time to refile it.
Yeah, 10 days. So you have 10 days from the event, so to speak, to file a complaint. So what it's basically saying is if it's sent back because of defects for whatever reason, it allows the person who submitted the complaint, that 10 days doesn't count against them. In other words, you know, so if they were to get notice of defects after the 10 days, then they'd be out of luck, and that, but that's the purpose of it.
So shouldn't we say that in here, the 10 days? I know we say it later on, but we don't say it specifically here. Just curious if we should.
If you look at 101 is where the 10 working days after the alleged violation is found.
Where is that? I'm sorry.
So 3 is 1. So a board.
Oh,
and
I see,
it's
you say 10,
incorporated
oh, you
for-
did put it in the letter in the proper format. I'm sorry, Patrick, I'm giving you a hard
Oh, it's
time.
the written out.
Yeah, you have it written out, but also you're supposed to put the.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, those little errors, hopefully I can fix.
Thank you, sir, thank you for pointing
Okay,
that out, I
thank you.
appreciate that.
I didn't realize that, so, okay, we can fix that. So if there's no objection,
Question I have,
Yes,
I have a question.
yes, sir.
The request will be made by the executive secretary to a complainant to fix it.
The executive secretary and the chair of the neighborhood commission, because these are all reviewed by the two.
So what will be an example of substantial defect, or what if the complainant doesn't want to separate the complaints? If we see that, you know, it should be combined in some way.
Well, if the complainant does not, and that's why, like in the flow charts we'll show it, it would go back to, all right, so let me start from the beginning. So you receive a complaint, let's say 2 complaints that you feel should be combined because they arise out of the same set of circumstances or
Same meeting, for example.
the same meeting or the same people,
Yeah.
that type thing. But it's 2 separate complaints.
Right.
For those 2 separate complaints, the executive secretary and the commission chair could say, we feel that you should refile and combine. I mean, they can tell the person, the complainant, that they, however, to fix it. The complainant has the option to say, no, I'm gonna go forward.
Right.
And then it would go back to the commission chair and the executive secretary to then probably not select that option again, but then select one of the other options, which could be either dismiss or just send it to the whatever other, you know, send it to the commission, send it to mediation, send it to the third party meeting, that sort of type of thing.
So it's really up to the complainant to decide whether they'll
Fix it, yes. Well, yes. Well, it wouldn't be refiled necessarily, it would be the commission. The complaint, both those complaints would still be outstanding. So we're not dismissing the complaints.
Right.
So they would still be outstanding, meaning that they would have to be handled. So if the complaint did not want to fix it and say, I'm going to hold steadfast, I believe it should be 2 separate complaints. In that instance, then the 2 folks, be it the executive secretary and the commission chair, would then have to determine how they want to deal with it at that point. If they feel that it's not worthy, then they can dismiss or whatever.
No, I think it's fair to give
So if it goes back to the complainant, then they'll have 10 days to fix it.
Yes.
So we should just say that.
Within
What-
10 days.
Yeah, like what Cap, he said about the
Oh.
tolling, just say 10
And
days.
it should be.
10
Yeah,
days. Yeah.
Within 10 days.
Yeah.
That makes
Thanks,
more sense.
Mahia.
Okay.
And you don't have to define what that means.
Thank you,
And
Ruth.
the only thing we need to do is define whether it's working days, business days, or calendar days.
Right.
Yeah, well, we're gonna
Yes.
get to
Yeah.
May thing.
Right.
I don't know if that's tonight, but hopefully, yeah, all the dates kind of have to be looked at. Okay, so is everybody happy with that provision with
I
the
think
change?
it's fair to give them an opportunity, I think that's fair to
It's
give
an
them a chance. They may have made a mistake they weren't aware of, and that gives them an opportunity to fix that mistake, I think that's fair.
Okay,
I have one hand raised from the audience.
who's,
Great mistake.
all right, Greg Masakian? Well, hold
Yes,
on,
just-
hold on one second, Greg, I'm sorry. Are there any committee members that wish to make a comment about this provision? Hearing none. Greg, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just one comment, or two comments actually, on this section or leading through to the other sections, I believe also. You made a statement just a moment ago that the complaints are reviewed by the executive secretary and the chair of the commission. I think I heard that correctly, so that any review process is by the executive secretary and the chair of the commission. But the language within the neighborhood plan, when they refer to the commission, my belief it should be the commissioners in a duly noticed meeting where you make decisions. So I'm trying to understand, number one, the commissioners' duties outside of commission meetings. Do they have? They don't have an office at the NCO, as far as I know. And
No.
go ahead if you want to respond to that.
Hey, well, the commission is very active in this process, as you will see. I mean, if I don't want to sound demeaning or anything, but if you weren't part of the process or part of the meetings before, there is part of the process. The commission is an essential part of that. I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself a little bit, but the commission does serve a very big part of that. This is only the initial vetting of the complaint, so this
Correct.
is hardly the.
Correct.
Yeah, so I just
That's what I'm
want to assure
referring
you.
to.
Okay, I just
So,
want to assure you.
correct. No, I'm fully understanding of that.
Okay.
So, and we know that the hearings process, there's a group of people in the room, which is the commissioners, and there's a lot more related to that. But I'm just speaking right at the very beginning when the complaint is received. The way the plan is currently written, it's the executive secretary. And then it mentions the commission. So the commission, in my understanding from, I'm not the attorney, you are, but I have a little bit of legal understanding. The commission would be the commissioners. There should be 9. There's one that needs to be seated. And those commissioners, when they make decisions, correct me if I'm wrong, they're not working a 9 to 5. They go into a session just like a board would go in. I serve on boards. I'm now president of Cookville Council again. So we don't make decisions outside of the board meetings. We could do a little bit, just a teeny little bit by email, but we have to agree. But we as boards make the decisions within the board. So when the commission meets, it's at a regular meeting. They're not having one this month. How does it work when the commission doesn't meet, the commissioners? And how is it that the chair is the person? And where does it say that in the plan, that the chair of the commissioners?
Well,
That's it.
Greg, let me untangle this a little bit. First off, we're talking about rewriting the plan. So you can't take the current plan and saying the proposal, this is going to be to substitute what the current procedures are. Secondly, I'm not sure you really understand the process yet. I would ask that you kind of see how it flows. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to sit down and kind of go through it. But it's part of a whole process. This is only the first part of the process. So some of the questions you're asking, you're kind of defining the whole process. And that's not where we're at.
No,
Okay,
I'm very specific. I'm very specific, Chair. Very specific. The beginning section, the term commission, what do you define the term commission to be versus a person on the commission? You could say secretary of the commissioners, the secretary or the chair of a committee. It just says commission when you look at the verbiage. If you change the words, then the question is, if you change it and say you decide to put chair in there of the commissioners, then that might actually violate another portion of, and I believe it probably would, of the intent of what the commission is for.
Does he have?
Where, yeah.
Greg, do you have the document in
Yeah.
Google Drive?
I'm just looking at the current here. Okay. If you look at the current section of Bear with me 1 second.
Okay.
Just had it up. Sorry. Where did it go? Here we go. Okay. If you look at 218-101 complaints as written currently,
Okay.
it says, okay,
what's
if you just look at the current verbiage, okay, changing it, I mean, your intent to change it is an intent. But if you let me finish, you're asking, I'm trying to clarify.
Okay,
If you just look at the 2-18-101 complaint section, and as you go down, you'll see the executive secretary at any time by written recommendation to the commission, not to Chair Richard Oshiro or the chair of the commission. It just says to the commission. Then the next line, I'm not going to go over all of it, but just read the commission, I'm doing air quotes, at any time by adoption of a resolution. So when you look at that as the commission, that's a question. So is it a vote by the commissioners, or does all of a sudden we have two people running the show and it's Executive Secretary Yamanaka and Chair Oshiro?
It's not really outlined in here, but if it's a written recommendation to the commission, it goes to the commission. All the commissioners would have a review of the complaint and that would be the process. And that's not really outlined in here, but it pretty much directly says that. It will go to the commission.
And that's why Kevin raised the concern of polling, because when time tolls and you have only certain amounts of meetings, unless you call special meetings, you're not going to be able to do what you want to do, even with this 10 days. And, I just got 2 certified letters dismissing, I don't know how many complaints from a year ago. All of a sudden.
I'm sorry. It does sound like you're a little unclear. I apologize for that, but we had a chance to hear you, but we've really got to get moving a little bit.
I'm not unclear. I'm very clear, and it's confusing in the wording. It's not clear in the wording of the neighborhood plan.
Okay. Well,
the definitions of what you have there are not clear, and they are not legally compliant if you go that route.
Well, it will go through legal review. So thank you very much for your offering. And go ahead, Rich.
I think the confusion with this provision is that if you look at the current neighborhood plan, the language is not the same. And what you're modifying in the proposal is different from what the language is currently. For example, Lloyd never asked me about complaints.
Right.
He just recommends to the commission. The commission decides whether we're going to agree with the executive secretary's recommendation or not. So I think that's where the difference is. In this particular case, I think Greg has a point that the proposed language would be such that complaints can be dismissed between the executive secretary and the chair, where it would not need to go to the commission.
If you read further down.
Yeah, item 6.
Right. But no, even item 2, it says dismiss complainant. Complainant determined to be unjustified. If the dismissal is determined to be unjustified or designed to harass, the complainant may appeal such a to the entire commission. So I think that addresses what Greg is saying, that yes, the commission can get involved. So something is dismissed by the secretary and the chair, and you disagree, you can bring it to the commission as a whole.
I will note that this proposal has came out of a lot of meetings, which we just brainstormed about how we wanted the process to run. So yes, it does not match the current, and that's kind of a big point. We're trying to come up with something from scratch.
And that's actually is the point, is the current process people feel is not perfectly clear and is not, in some respects, fair.
Yes.
And what we're trying to be is more fair.
Right. Yeah. More efficient, more fair.
And more efficient.
Well, I think that's what the confusion is. Is that we're looking at something that's already changed.
Yeah.
It's not from the original language. Like Ramsey, you do it on Ramsey.
Well, we tried to Ramsey.
That
was very confusing too.
Well, that's not Ramsey. That's Word. Word is very different.
Well,
track changes is very different from Ramsey.
Right.
Well, when we go to the public, maybe that'll have to be done, and we'll have to figure it out at that time. Well, it's not going to be fun. Whoever has to do it, but we're.
We will have to Ramsey it for the public.
If we have to, then it will.
We have to. I think that is required.
So, but, we don't even have a solid proposal for the commission yet. So
Yeah.
I don't think we need to do that every week, or every month, I'm sorry. So, are there any more items, or any more comments about number 1? So, if you move down to number 5, it says refer to mediation. We had a lot of discussion about party conferences, so we can keep the party conferences, but add something for mediation. And that, if mediation works and we find a mediator, like the Pacific or whatever it's
Center
called,
for mediation, yeah.
if it works, then fantastic. That can be an option that we can choose. However, if it does not, it doesn't hurt being in there. So I heard before that some of our committee members wanted that option in there. We still have the third-party conferences, and now we have a mediation option, so.
I think
Is
that's
that fine?
good. I think that's good to
Okay.
offer that.
All right, so any comments about the
Yeah, Dylan.
item C?
Not from, after committee, Greg raised his hand again.
All right, Greg, go ahead, please.
Just very briefly on this one, the mediation portion, while I support mediation, if it's something that could potentially work, and I had suggestion mediation within the NCO, even just having the parties sit at the table together and have a group of your own staff sit with the two parties and just be adults in the room. That's what I had referred to before. But what I see as a concern is charging the parties for mediation. Mediation is not cheap. For condo associations, there's a statute which allows forbearance of the fees outside of it. I think it's $375 per party. And it may even be split, I'm not sure. But for this, I mean, an hour of mediation, could be $375, it could be $500. I don't know, it depends where you go. And a day of mediation could run into the $1,000, a couple $1,000 if it was a full day or a couple of days.
Thank you. One of our mediation options I was told was free. Obviously, if there's a big cost, I don't know, but I don't see the NCO wanting to pay a lot of money for that. So I think that would have a big impact on the availability of that option, or maybe the wisdom of picking that option in the future. So yeah, that would be, but that's a real-time sort of decision, part of the decision process. Okay.
One more hand.
Who is it?
Claire Santos.
Claire Santos, please, Claire.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to jump on that a little bit. Let's not get into the weeds. Mediation is an option, not a mandate, and there are mediation groups who can participate. And as you said, it's a real-time decision. So I support that completely. So we have objective third-party input, and the price thing, that's just red herring. So let's hopefully keep it in and leave it as an option. It says or mediation, so it's not a mandate, so I'm all for it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any further issues or any further comments or concerns on that? Okay, so moving along, item D, that was just updating because the provision numbers changed a little bit, but there was no substantial update to that. If you look at item E, there's an addition that says, if the complainant fails to file a timely appeal, there's the tolling again, within 10 business days, I can't even remember, days of tolling of such appeal period, the respondent shall be notified of the dismissed complaint. So, I'll tell you what that means. It means that if you don't file a complaint, if you don't file the appeal 10 days after you get notice of notice is sent out of the dismissal, then this dismissal is final.
Okay, can we just say
so
that?
I guess we need to wordsmith that, make it a little bit less legally. So sorry for that.
Off totally, that's it, because you got 10 days.
Yeah, I agree with you, Richard, thank you.
Okay, so there you go. Sorry about that. That's my.
Coral probably make us
But
put that in.
as far as the substance of it, what happened was we found out when we talked about it, I don't think there was any problem. We just didn't have that 10 days. Someone asked, well, what's the period they have to come
No,
back?
that makes sense.
And we
yeah.
needed that, so.
And I think, again, this is fair, if part of the process, if what you're trying to do is to streamline this and make it more fair to on all sides, then I think this is fair. Thank you.
Thank you. And then, under item F1, this was a little change, and actually, I gotta give credit to Kevin Line. It's like we needed the shalls. So you can't have a shall in here that like every complaint would have to follow this one provision. So it's referred to a party conference shall, and that's it.
Good.
And then we just have some language about time and date. And there is a change for the days. I can't remember why, but we need to go back and look at all the day languages just to make sure they all make sense. So let's not talk about how long at the time period right now, because we're gonna need to go back and do a review of all these days. Moving on, are there any questions or concerns thus far? Claire, please go ahead.
Apologies, I just didn't take my hand down from the last time. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, no worries. And just so everyone knows, I can't actually see your hands up, so if I move to another spot or kind of finish a subject and I don't call on you, just say, please, Chair, or excuse me, Chair, something like that. And if it's not the right time, then I'll say, hold on, and we'll get back to you. So please know that we're not trying to ignore anybody.
Calais Salcedo.
Who?
Calais.
Calais Salcedo. I hope I said the name correctly. Austin. Oh,
That's his wife.
did maybe she have her hand up?
I just wanted to say, communication is very important. You know, on all levels, communication is very important because we're on the back burners when it comes to community. You know, saying, speaking out. You always throw the residents in the back burners. We are here. We want to be heard, and we want to be on the same level as all of you folks to be heard. We don't want to be silent because we don't want our safety and well-being of the Kupunas to be compromised. That's all we said, is communication and being honest on the table, whether it violates the protocols. You know, you made a mistake, we're all human. You make a mistake, okay, you make a mistake, then let's find out how we can correct the mistake. But do not throw neighborhood boards on the back burners, and we gotta learn to deal with it ourselves. That is unethical behavior from any official office or state or city. You have to be collaboration, honest, to communicate so we can find a solution instead of pointing fingers. And that's all we asking for. Our share of our voice to be heard. That's all we asking for. Mahalo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I think we can move on through, we're on item H. That's was it 102?
Mm-hmm.
Or we're still on 101, I'm sorry, item H. I'm sorry, 101 is actually kind of long, so sorry. So 101, item H, or subprovision H. And it's really just some language modification at first, but it does say, if you go down below, it says, for appeals to the commission of a dismissal pursuant to the dismissal item, the respondent shall file as required under this provision. That was set in just to kind of complete the process, because if you didn't have that in there, it would make it like it was kind of unclear. So that's purely just a procedural addition. Doesn't really mean anything big. So if there are no questions, so item I, let me make sure.
Are we on the agenda, number 8?
Yes.
Yeah, we're on number 8 now.
Okay.
So we're on A8. So I was, it says reasonable period. It does not define, obviously, what reasonable period is. But this is for a referral of or appeal to the commission. Such complaint should be placed on the commission's next agenda's regular meeting. And the problem with, if you put a specific time, like 10 days, well, the meeting may not be in 10 days.
But
So that's why it is.
Okay, so I do have a concern about reasonable period, because what's reasonable to me may not be reasonable to somebody else, yeah.
And
So
that's-
what I would say is a reasonable period, maybe saying not to extend past 3 months or something. The commission should be able to agendize something within a 3-month period or less. I understand that accounts for a recess, if you have, to defer stuff and put it to the next agenda, that should still give you time to agendize.
Not to exceed 3 months.
Yeah, not to
Reasonable
exceed 3 board meetings, or commission meetings rather.
Well, commission meetings are 3 months, because what if you have recesses?
No, 3 months, okay.
3 months.
Yeah, 3 months.
Okay, are there any objections, or Stephen, did you have go ahead, Stephen.
Chair, yeah, I agree with Catherine. I agree that if you bracket it under a not to exceed, that's correct. Because then you have it bracketed. You're not telling them the time frame to use, but you're bracketing it. So that's a good strategy. Thank you.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you.
Agreed.
So, okay, I think everybody's in agreement, so we will keep Catherine's. I'm sorry.
People are calling Kathy.
Kathy, I don't mind.
I have a house guest. This is Catherine, so I apologize. So it should be ill, right? It will read. So if able to be notified in a reasonable period, not to exceed 3. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. So
Thank
we
you.
can move on to, actually we get to our next provision. So this is item A10. So that is, we will go to.
Okay,
Okay.
number 9.
Yeah.
Provision, it changes to.
Yeah, you're right, I'm sorry, I hadn't noted. I can't believe that. So, okay, so number 9, that's 101K. Let me find that, please. Oh my gosh, did you find it? What page is it?
Okay, 4.
Okay, I got so much stuff. Oh,
Poor Patrick.
okay, so here's the issue with Hawaii state law. State law seems to require hearing notices to be by registered or certified mail. It does not appear to require other types of notice, all other types of notices to be by registered or certified mail. That's why there is a bifurcation. Or we split, let's say we split this provision in 2 by having pretty much all the other notices go by regular mail, but the legally required notices that
Fair enough.
go certified, that's why it's split.
And thank you for doing that, so it's clear.
Okay, so any other issues about that? And we did change item L, that was changed to 4 p.m. That was at the last meeting at the best of the NCO.
Okay.
So that's it for 101. Are there any remaining issues in the proposal for anything in section 101?
Great.
Greg, go ahead, please.
Just a question on the last section A, and what happens if a complainant or respondent indicates that they did not receive something by mail or by email, and then you have a legal quagmire?
Well,
and what if they didn't? I mean, let's be clear. I mean, I don't know who the burden of proof is. There's a burden of proof. So someone could just say, I didn't receive the email. I didn't receive it by US mail. Then where's the burden of proof? The burden of proof could be right back onto the NCO. So then I'm just throwing it out, devil's advocate.
I appreciate it, but so what we're using in terms of the plan is that in times of, I always want to say toll, but we don't want to use that word. So when the time limits begin, we say when the notice is sent. And so there is some issues that are going to have to be resolved. If we have a complaint coming in, hopefully, I know the respondent will be different because we don't necessarily have maybe correct information on the respondent, but there will be an effort. But most of these, the burden will be on the recipient. And there again, this will go to legal review. This will be looked at by the corporate counsel. And if that is deemed, I don't want to say inappropriate, but not legal, then this will not obviously be kicked back. So, but I would say the answer to your question is there will be some responsibility on the recipient. I would say some. There actually is responsibility on the recipient, and part of that is making sure that everybody keeps up with the address requirements, be it physical address, be it email address, that type thing. And I would hope, and it certainly has been the practice of the commission, to ensure that everybody actually does receive the material that is sent out. We're not trying to, as far as I know, the NCO doesn't have any history of trying to, not do the right thing in terms of getting people notice. But
I'll argue with that on another day. But yeah, I disagree with you,
okay.
At least in my case.
No,
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So hearing nothing about 101, we can move on to 102, which will bring us to item 10. And let me find that, please. Oh, well, I think that was review. Yeah, that was just, I was kind of a highlight because we really need to think about that. If we change the to business days, that's a long time.
Okay, so that's another one that we
But
just
that's just the day issue.
put a
So,
pin in it.
yeah, so let's go to item number 11, which is 102 D10.
I think that's the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the days thing.
I think that's exactly it, so we can skip that. And then the last one, and I think the last one is B3, which is the same issue with reviewing the days.
Yeah.
Okay. I think these are misnumbered too. I think we go from 102 to 104.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so 104 will be changed to 103.
Oh, yeah.
And then 105 will be changed, obviously, to 104. Just, and that will come out in the new proposal, but, okay, so now we're ready for our review of all the days. Does anyone want to make a generalized comment about the whole proposal? Except for the time issue.
No, I think this is much better. It's
So-
a little clearer. It feels
Yeah.
more fair. And
So-
again,
It's fine.
I'm going to always advocate for the clearest language possible.
Great, so we'll make those changes. What I would like, and if I can make some general comments about the whole proposal, is what I'm hoping is maybe next month, if we feel comfortable, that hopefully everyone will take a look at what we have thus far, because this is pretty solid, except there will be some changes with the I think the tolling language, and there are a couple very little modifications. That this looks like our final proposal to the commission after we do the days issue. But, so if you really think about it, if you have any problems, this is our last chance to, not really our last chance to say anything, but we're getting to the point where we need to kind of finalize. I'm sorry. Greg, can you chime in?
Yeah, I have an important one with a real real life evidence of this being done time and time again, but most recently receipt of a couple of complaint letters. Complaints were dismissed. So I have 2 certified letters that are dated. So the letters are dated May 19th, signed by Chair Oshiro, not put into the mail, which shows postmarked. They are certified, but postmarked on May 30th. You need to address dates of letters, postmarks, and then the 3-day receipt, in my opinion, is a major concern. Because, and I'll give you an example. If a certified letter comes and the person isn't there, especially in condominium buildings, Waikiki, everybody's in a condo. So letter comes, they don't come up to my apartment, they put a note in the mailbox, you have to go pick it up. You might be traveling, happening, whatever. I had an interesting thing, the hearing that was against me, it was clearly dismissed.
Okay.
This is the last part. The hearing that was dismissed, this is important. these are all things you need to know. The hearing that was dismissed recently against me, that was in my mailbox as a certified letter. I never signed for it. So the other 2 certified letters, I had notices in the mailbox. That one, I never signed. I still don't know who signed for it or how it got into my mailbox, but you're always going to have potential issues. And the key is the letter, when the letter's dated. So if you date a letter and it's more than a day after, it goes to the post office, that's a problem. So you're trying to keep tight restrictions on board members, and you're not complying with any kind of restrictions within your own organization. Very important to realize.
Okay, thank you. No, I have to say, I've heard people complain about the mail being slower now.
Yeah, it is slower.
Maybe
It
that
actually is slower.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that was a long way of saying that, but okay. Thank you. Maybe that is an issue that we should go back and look. And when we do our days review, that could be something. I think that's a valid concern, so thank you. Okay, with that, if you want, we can look at the flow chart just so everybody knows what's going on with the process.
Yeah, please.
If you want to skip to that, can you bring up?
Chair. Someone's raising their hand.
Yeah, Stephen, go. Okay, hold on. Stephen, go ahead, please.
Yeah, just a comment about this discussion. So are we saying from item 10, you're changing from calendar to business days for notifications?
Don't know yet.
Well, it
Can I
would be
comment on that?
ideal to have business days be our general standard, but then the problem is then we need to go back and make sure everything is reset for that. In other words, so I think ideally it's better to have a standard. I mean, wouldn't people say, as opposed to going from calendar day in one spot, business days in another spot? I don't think it seems like it would be better to have consistency the whole way through. But then doing that, we may have to then change, because some may say 60 days, but if we change it to 60 business days, that's going to really lengthen the process. So that's why we're going to go back. But yeah, so I say business days.
I would be in favor of staying with calendar days, that being the legal precedence, and that's the standard in Hawaii. If we go to business, it's going to be challenged a lot. So thank you for that. I'm in favor of the calendar days.
Another option in terms of deadlines, and if you want to remove any confusion, you indicate a specific date rather than say 10 days or 10 business days, 10 calendar days. Just specify the date, period. Then they know you have a date when you got to respond.
Yeah, but it's got to be consistent across.
Well,
then
that's best. That's good.
Because the way it is now, it's very specific as to when they chose business days versus calendar days, or they just say days. So, yeah, if you go business days for everything, then yes, it's going to lengthen the time, and we're trying to shorten the time frame, right, for all of this stuff.
Okay, but then
so if we go to calendar days, that's one thing. But then at the same time, if you go to either calendar or business, you can still specify the date, because you just count it up for the respondent.
Well, yeah, you can always put the date in there.
Yeah.
I see where you're going. You say 10 business days from X, which means this is due by X.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I like the clarity of that, Richard. I think that's really smart. But back to what Steve was saying, and also then referencing what Greg was saying, for me, business days, it gives you that weekend as kind of a freebie. So if you have issues and you got to go to the post office, if you do, in some respects, I see what Greg is saying about the timing of everything. And the one reason I like business days, because it kind of gives you those 2 extra days over the weekend. Now, it doesn't mean we have to necessarily increase everything. We can still have 10 business days. You got the 2 extra days in there, or 1 extra day, how it might be, but it might give you a little bit of cushion. It gives the person who's receiving it. For me, for example, I can't get to the post office except on the weekend. So if you give me calendar days, it may mess me up. But if you give me business days, then those 2 extra days.
Whether it's calendar or business.
Yeah.
We can still specify.
Oh, I like that idea, Richard. I really do.
That way, there's no
guessing
as to what the deadline is.
Yeah,
And
no, I
we
totally
cannot,
agree
we
with
cannot
you, yeah.
control the post office.
No, we can't.
So, that's what's required by law and that's what we're following, so
But I
that's what
like
we do.
with the starting point and end point, make it abundantly clear, and then if anyone has any issues down the road.
They can.
But that's just me
Yeah.
liking business days, but I can go with that.
Okay, well
I'm not
then,
gonna
why
die
don't,
on it.
since we're already talking about business days, why don't we just jump into it? And I'm not really following what you're saying, so if we could go back to 101 subsection or A3 on the page 1, on 3 and 4 where it says 10 working days. What would be your language?
It's business.
Business days there, not working days, because to me, business is
Business
working.
days.
Yeah.
Okay,
business
so I
days.
mean, but I mean, we're fine with the
But,
time.
the case could also be made for calendar days, like what Steve said, so,
Okay, so everyone's fine.
whatever the group wants.
Well, I don't know. Okay, so
Business
10,
days.
okay, so we
Leanne
have,
likes business days too, so.
we have business, we're gonna retain business day, or not retain, we're gonna change working to business days for 3 and 4. So jumping down to item C, we have,
It says business days.
it already says business days, everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, and 10 days is a fine period, because it's not just the business day versus calendar days. Okay, so going down to item D, we have item 1 and 2 of D, we have business days. Is everybody content with?
I'm fine with that.
Okay,
Yes.
jumping to, thank you. Jumping to item E, there again, we have business days for both usages. Okay, well, let's go a little
Yes.
quicker. So F2, we have business days, but there was some issue, I will say, let's just say, just to make sure, there was, instead of saying 5 business days on the second one, we said,
10.
we changed it to not less than 10.
No, that's-
So, is everybody
Yes.
happy with, so is
Yeah,
everybody
okay.
happy with current
And it
language?
makes it more consistent with the previous 10 days.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we're ready to move to item G on page 3.
Business,
We have 10 business days, that's,
H is 10 business.
H is 10 business, everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll do this pretty quick. Okay, so we're moving to page 4, which is item L. And, I'm sorry, we go into 102.
Yeah.
Section 102. We have 3 business days of, shall be notified of the hearing, and that's notification from the NCO, so that would have to, almost assuredly have to be business days for them
Yeah.
to comply. And
Yes.
on item C, this kind of extends it a little bit because it was calendar before, but it just by like 4 days probably, depending on. how
But
it
again,
is.
we're asking the complainant and the respondent to file with commission a list of witnesses. That gives them my point is, they get the weekend perhaps to do the work and gives them a little extra time. If you've ever done the complaint or been on the receiving end of the complaint, it takes time to put this stuff
Right.
together correctly. And I think that's very fair for us to allow that.
So, the second part, I think we were talking about C, so the second part of that is, so the evidence shall be exchanged, or I think the list of evidence, the list of exhibits and evidence will be exchanged not less than 7 business days before the hearing.
Why wouldn't we keep it at 10 just to be for consistency?
I think it was, well, and that's fine, I'm not opposed to that, but I would just say it was kind of a concern of lengthening the process, because this is just, they're not putting together anything, they're just doing a review of whatever the other side submits. But I mean, if people want to change that, that's fine, but that was kind of, I think, the thought process. Yeah, that's why.
Stop, I'm serious.
Sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead.
While
I
we're
know-
on this subject,
Mahia,
Oh.
had her hand
Oh, go ahead.
For that section, 7 business days, I would I would like to see consistency with 10 business days, because as we move through this process, there's 60 days, there's 3 days, there's 10 days. If we just simply put everything within a 10-day frame for this, no less than 10 business days, people begin to remember 10 business days, no
I
less
would
than
tend to
10
agree.
business days.
Agreed.
Okay, without objection, we'll change it to 10.
Just to add, one comment. So in this sentence that we're talking about with the 7 business days, the evidence shall be exchanged between the complainant and the respondent not less than 7 business days before. Is that the office that is doing the distribution?
Yes,
And if that's the
yes, I
case,
can't
I
see it.
would think there's a benefit of the difference of, just like you said, a cushion for any error. So I would be in favor of the, not that anyone asked, that 10 business days.
All right,
just-
Dylan agrees,
just-
all right.
Yeah, actually, I think everybody.
Seven.
I agree. Yeah.
Thank you, Dylan.
Yeah, it says the commission shelf for forward files.
Yeah, but I'm with Mahal, I
Okay.
think the consistency is.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see that. So the commission shall forward copy.
So,
We
yeah,
work
everybody, I think there's consensus for 10 days. So we're changed on C, both
10
of
days.
them will.
Yeah, good job.
Okay, so going to item D and 9, so that's D9.
Now we get to
After, so this is,
45.
yeah, and so changing it from calendar business, could we maybe make it 30 business days? I mean, that would kind of be equivalent, right? Or maybe 35 then.
Sorry, just so we can backtrack, because it sounds like everyone agreed on the 10 and 10 for.
Yes,
No, item C.
yes, yes.
Yeah, so that's
And
one
I
of
think
the
I
two.
was saying that if the complainant and respondent have to submit their material 10 days, and it's by 4 p.m. on that day, then we're also saying that at the exact same moment, the commission needs to flip it around and give it to the other party
Within 10 days.
Within 10 days.
from that submission.
Yeah.
Not, okay, not from the hearing. Well, that says before the hearing. They both say before the hearing.
Well,
Yeah.
this will be before the hearing because.
So basically, if someone, let's say the respondent, waits
So this
until
is-
4 p.m., the very last minute of the 10-day, right when they send it, then the commission has to immediately flip it around and send it back.
Within 10 days.
No, that's not what this says, right?
Okay,
This
so,
says before the hearing.
yeah, before, because not less than 10 days.
Well, one would
before
hope
the
that when you
show
set the
photos.
hearing, you work backwards. and
You
allow
know
for
that-
what this
No,
time.
I'm just saying,
I
we go through it all the time.
No,
We had 35.
I get what you're
complaints.
saying, you know that, I think that needs to be fixed.
I think 7
Clarify.
days, the way it is
I think-
fine because it leaves cushion for error.
Right,
I think you're right.
So I
because-
wouldn't say the second date is 10, I would say 7. As
Well,
it's
this,
currently written.
it would actually have to be a change in the first date. It'd have to be more.
Oh,
than 10.
reversed.
Yeah,
Well, hold
so
on.
it'd have to be, we could say 20 days.
No.
Well,
You're
the
first saying
problem
that
is
they
you
have
gotta
10 days
have
before the
time.
hearing to submit it, so both parties have to do their homework and submit it 10 days prior to the hearing.
Yeah,
But then the commission
oh, I see what you're
has 7
saying, Dylan.
days from the hearing, so they have 3 days to get it out to the other party.
okay, yeah, okay, that's why it worked, right.
Yeah, so I
That's
think
why
the
it was
way it
7
currently
days,
is written,
gotcha.
I know that it's weird to have 10 and 7 in
Right.
there, but I think it's
No, that's a
beneficial.
good catch, okay, there was a reason.
Oh,
we did-
okay, because the complainant and respondent, okay.
Yeah,
And we
Okay.
support the commission,
So we
we're
rescind,
doing the
right,
work.
Mahal?
I need that cushion to
Yes.
make sure I get it
Oh,
out.
man.
Okay.
That
is
would
the
have been
thing.
easy to remember.
There was a reason we had 7,
Okay.
but I didn't remember it. No, I
Okay.
thank you, so are we okay with retaining 7?
Okay, well, we're taking
That
that
one
out.
specific
Okay.
case.
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you,
No.
Dylan. Thank you, Dylan.
Thank goodness you caught that, or that would have been kind of strange.
Between the complainant and the respondent. Okay, thank you, Dylan.
Yes.
Okay, so going on back to D9, and maybe even D10, but D9, it's 45 days for the commission to issue its decision. If we change that to business, that's gonna get
Very
quite a
long.
long
What's
time.
So if we change it to 30 business days?
30
30
business
business days? No.
Well, right now you have 45 business days.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Well,
So
it
they
was-
had two on the end.
It was 45 calendar days before.
Mhm.
Now if it's 30.
So if we're
business
changing,
days.
so
I
30
mean,
business
30
days.
business days, well, if you think of
It-
5,
Month
that's
and a
6
half, yeah,
weeks.
yeah.
That's 6 weeks.
That equates almost to 45 business days.
Yeah, I
I
think
know,
it's very
that's
close.
what I'm saying.
I totally support that.
Or you can say no less.
And if you get a holiday,
Yeah.
Well, it
Okay.
goes, well,
within 45 versus
it
not
says
less
within
than.
already.
Yeah, I guess within is fine.
Would,
Within 45,
So
sorry,
it could be
within
soon.
30 business days
yeah,
after
it
the
could be
hearing,
sooner.
the commission shall issue its decision, right?
So is everybody happy within 30?
No, I think
Yes.
40.
30 business.
Because,
30 business.
no, because right now you got 45 days, right?
Yeah, so 30 business and 40, so 30
So like
business and 45 calendar are essentially the same.
Yeah, it's
Very close.
That's 15 days difference.
well, but
So
one
30
counts
plus
the
15
weekends.
is 45.
One counts the
Well-
weekends, the other doesn't, and holidays.
Well, you guys are gonna have.
Yeah, and that's why I think, because they're so
I can
close, there
see-
might
I
be a
can
day
see
off, I think
it
it's
staying
fine.
at 45.
And 30 is an even number.
Okay, well, I hope you guys review this closely too, now that we're getting a little closer, so if you have a problem. So I heard 30 days, is everybody okay with that? Okay.
Yes. 30
There you go.
business days.
30 business days, yes.
Before we move on, Chair, I do have a hand raised from Greg.
All right, Greg.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just curious why there's or why you're adverse to having the calendar days as currently there, as far as having the business days. I think the problem sometimes with business days, and I respect both for certain things, but with business days, you actually have to think a little harder, I think, when you're calculating and kind of look at the calendar. You just mentioned something about holidays too. I don't know how that impacts business day. So
Well,
if you don't clarify that, you may have a legal challenge. So it's just me. I mean, the 45 calendar days is a little easier to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. It's sort of, and that was the odd thing. We just kind of had we had to make a decision for consistency. If that was important to, I mean, I think it's kind of important, but I don't want to speak for the rest of the committee. Just to have consistency through the plan, and because some of the days cover what the NCO does, we felt it would be better to have business days. I understand what you're saying about it's challenging. Yeah, if you read that, it's more difficult to kind of look at that and understand what that means. As far as having a legal challenge, it's settled in the law. I mean, you just have to ask an attorney or something, but there's not gonna be any court cases about that. But yeah, each way you do it is gonna have a pitfall. I mean, that's basically it. So for consistency purposes, we chose business days, and I understand where that's not the best option for some people, and I get it, but
But
you
I
gotta make a
also,
choice.
if
Go
we
ahead.
follow what Richard was saying about putting actual dates in there, saying, so if we said 30 business days, which would be X, Y, Z
Yeah,
date,
yeah.
then that helps
How do you say
clarify.
that?
I
mean,
think
how do you say that?
I think you're saying like in the event of a complaint as that's being processed, not, oh, I want to file a complaint, so someone needs to tell me the exact date. It's not that, it's just if we're in the middle of a complaint right now, then we would say, you have this, on the document, it would say that, the date.
Okay.
So it's
Not
only,
in here,
Oh,
not in here.
yeah.
that's
yeah.
where I
It's
was
like-
like,
it's like,
I was like, what are you talking, I didn't
No,
understand.
when Richard sends his letter would say, we
That would be very helpful, and
Yeah, that-
hopefully
then you
that
have
would
an
allay
exact date.
your
Yeah.
concerns,
Within
Greg.
45 days.
Well, it would
meaning,
Yeah,
That-
his language. he come up
yeah, I
with
think that would
specify.
be helpful, that would be very helpful, okay.
And then nobody's counting, and then the person who gets it knows exactly
Well, the
what
question
something's
is whether
due.
you want to state that in the.
No, not in here,
I
not
think
in
it's a good
here.
fade.
Yeah.
We
I
got
think that's
Commissioner
a
Moran.
Chair. Yeah, I want
Yes.
to echo back, if I may, echo back what Kathleen said and also what Chair Cheryl said concerning specific, being real specific. Whenever any communication goes out from NCO or from the commission, if we have a set date, that's the best. I went through that again today with a contract issue. And it could be nebulous. It could be, and we can't do that. we can't do that. So whenever possible, if we can be very specific on certain date for business to respond to any notification, that would be preferred.
Okay, so I think what we would ask is for the commission to put the date certains in the complaint, all the material.
It's
Like
just good
by a
business
specific-
practice.
Yeah, you need to respond by a specific date.
Yeah.
And
Efficient.
That's correct.
But I think the other side of it is we didn't want to necessarily put that requirement in here, but that would be the
Right.
best practice. And okay, so is everybody?
Good.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you. Claire, go ahead, please.
Just to chime in here, normal business practice in my experience, it is business days, and you state whether it's including or excluding holidays, and you include the dates in the letter so that
Yes,
everybody's crystal clear. So just chiming in agreement to make those adjustments to normal business practice standard. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So on item D10, we don't actually have business. I didn't put that.
Should
in.
put 30 business days.
So 30 business days, is that the hearing officers? That's a long time, maybe, I don't know. This is for a hearings officer.
Shall submit a written report of recognition to the.
That, if we appoint someone, maybe we should make it 20 or something. I mean,
Actually, having been a hearings officer, I think shorter is better because the longer you wait to get the report done, the more you forget. And I actually would recommend 15. Having done it myself.
we're hearing from someone who has experience. Do the committee members, is 15 business days?
I agree, Kathleen.
If the hearings officer doesn't want to accept the assignment, then
Well,
they'll
that's true.
say, let's do shorter time. So,
You can always do it less than 15, yeah.
no.
Right, but I mean,
You can also
yeah.
do it, if it's 30, you can do it in 15 if you want.
Yeah.
No, I
With
get what
human
you're saying. They
nature
won't
being
accept
But
it.
as it is.
For something like this, it's kind of the norm. 30 is kind of the minimum time.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
that's fine, I mean, I'm
If you
not gonna
shorten it,
argue,
you
I
might
just,
just limit
That's
yourself
3
in
weeks.
terms of finding,
yeah.
hearings officers.
I don't think
That's
that
right.
would affect somebody, but,
Well, you're
But
very
that is
efficient,
3
so
weeks.
yeah.
not everybody is like you.
but that is 3 weeks. I mean, basically, 3 weeks, they have to turn around the report. And I understand what you're saying about if you let them go too long, that's a.
If human nature being as it is,
Well, 30 days flies.
yeah, it does. Well, I'm not gonna,
Okay, well,
whatever the group wants to do.
we kind of had a consistent, initially, some people wanted 15. Do you have an alternate proposal?
Well, I think we should leave it for.
30, but it was 30 business days?
Oh,
Because
if we're
presently
being
it's 30
consistent.
days,
If we're being consistent,
but that's gonna,
but that's why I
Really?
suggested 15 business
That's gonna make
days.
it.
Hearings officers may not work on Saturdays, Sundays, holidays also, so.
Yeah, we also don't get paid.
Well, that's what I mean, so you don't wanna limit your, they likely will work on those days if they're volunteers.
well,
Does 20 meet in the middle?
How about
20
20? You want to wrap it up in 20 business days or 20 days, 20 business
I
days.
mean, 20,
4 weeks.
would that,
Yes, 20,
20?
let's do 20.
All right,
Yeah.
so Stephen, is that fine? 20 business days? Okay.
That's palatable, but sometimes when we try to move things along like that, something burps and then we have to do it twice. Then instead of it being 20 days, it ends up being 40. If you left it at 30, that's sufficient time. If the rest of the committee feels to move to 20, that's palatable, but just remember that something's going to drop through the cracks somewhere.
Well, basically, it's 30 calendar days now, 20 business days is
It's almost
basically a
30
month.
it's almost a
So it's
month.
really not a
Yeah.
All right.
substantive. Okay, sure. Okay,
Thank you.
so, thank you. Moving along, we can skip over to, I think it's 1 and 2. Hold on a second, I'm kind of confused here.
Yeah.
Are we on page 6?
We're on page 6.
Oh, so it's 10, like,
10A.
gosh, is that 10?
Yeah.
That's why it looks a little strange the way it's written here, okay. So, yeah, this is all under hearings officer. We could just change like A to business days, it's not really that substantive of a change. Is that
No.
okay under A?
Yeah.
Make
See
it
about the
business.
parties within 3 business days.
I mean, that won't make that much of a change. So, yeah, B's already 15 business days. They have to file an objection to the report.
Okay.
So that's 15 business days. The interesting thing is item C, where it's 60 days currently. If we change that to 60 business days, that's gonna substantially.
Well, why don't we, then what we could do like we did with the other one, not to exceed 3 months.
Or you could just say 45 days.
Yeah, how about 45 business days?
Yeah.
Okay, I would go with that.
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you. All right, so that takes care of that one. Then skipping down to 103 sanctions, B3. Yeah, so just shall not be more than, I mean, this is the little strange one. Maybe that should be kept calendar. I don't know. I don't know what the pleasure of the committee is, but, you know, that
Because meetings are on
probably
a
should,
calendar basis.
yeah, that maybe should be the exception to remain calendar, I would think.
Do we need like a limit of how long we can suspend someone?
Well, that's a good question
Yeah.
too. Well, I mean, you kind of, yeah, I mean, that's actually a good point.
Well, I guess 2, the one before it says removal of a board. Oh no, but that's officer.
Yeah.
But then 4, removal of a board member for the remainder of the term.
Yeah, so,
I don't even know why both are in there.
well, because if you want to have a shorter, if it doesn't
You
warrant,
gotcha, suspension versus removal.
yeah, it doesn't warrant removal.
Yeah.
But maybe you change it. But I mean, I think in that instance, because you are talking about board members, maybe you really should leave it calendar.
I'm okay with leaving it
I
calendar.
mean, is everybody okay with that? Because I think if you do change that to business, it's gonna be a little confusing for
They might
people.
miss a meeting.
Yeah.
So do we still want to keep it 60 as we have that brief discussion?
Well, basically, that means 2 meetings, that's why.
Yes,
Right.
but I mean, you want to have that imposed limit on the ability to sanction them. Because the alternative is then to remove them for the rest of the term, like say it happens at the.
So in other words, a suspension of a board member for a period as determined by the commission?
I mean, you could change it to that. And you don't need to say, have a limit like you suggested. You just say to let the commission define how long the suspension's gonna be.
I think what's also important to note is the rest of that sentence, the absences, so if that's 2 meetings, that's 2 recesses, that's 2 absences, you get a 3rd absence.
Yeah.
Could be removed, so I think that's
Maybe-
why they wrote it the way they did.
Maybe we should say it does not. I mean, we could say that the absences do not toll. No, we don't. Sorry. No.
And to be honest with you, I don't think it's fair to count, if the commission suspends somebody, I don't think those should be counted as absences, because you're making a determination to suspend this person from cause. And I don't think it's fair to count that as an absence, because then you're basically penalizing them twice. And I don't think that's fair. So I think at this point, I would say, I like the idea of leaving the determination of the suspension up to the commission, depending on what the egregious act was. And let's not.
So no date.
And no date, and then.
No limit.
No limit, and then it should not count as absences. I think that's unfair. That's twice penalizing them.
What is
Yep.
the?
I would agree.
Agree,
Okay.
agree.
Okay, thank you. I agree. Any thoughts, Richard? So what it will be is, maybe the language will be something like for a period that's determined by the commission, and suspension shall not count towards
Absences, yeah.
towards absences. Is everybody okay with that? And the
Agreed.
language costs a little, but I think basically that's it. Okay. All right, so without anything further, we can move on to just the last issue, which is contested cases process in 104. And I think that that's based on statutory language, so maybe we should leave
What
that
page is
alone.
that?
Page 7.
Oh, yeah,
So we
anything
should
with the
probably-
HRS, I should leave alone.
Yeah, so,
Okay, don't even touch it.
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
So, okay, we've gone through all the days, everybody seems pretty happy, right? Any last thoughts?
Well, it's interesting on the 30 days in this last section, but I think as you brought up in the beginning, consistency, do you wanna write out the days or do you wanna?
No, it should, the proper format is you have the word and then in parentheses you have the number. That
So
is
both.
standard
That's right.
operating practice.
That's correct.
Yeah.
10 would be
Yes.
TEN, this is 10.
Well, and I consider that a formatting thing, and actually, I think Kevin Lackry, said that he would reformat everything, so.
Oh,
Good for
nice
you.
of him.
Yeah, so I'll talk to
Very
him,
kind.
but, maybe we can
But I
get
agree.
reviewed, so I'm not really concerned about the formatting so much, but.
We do have one more hand raised.
Okay, but I mean, is everybody ready for, willing for the substance?
One more hand raised.
Who's that?
Great.
Greg, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one. So on, let's see, on section 2-18-104 sanctions, I don't know if this was discussed, but you've got crossed out a board committee member, so you've decided to not include the board committee members to be part of that sanctions process. Is that going to stand, or was that?
Yes,
Is
okay, at a previous meeting of this committee, we discussed whether non-board committee members would be subject to complaints, the complaint process, and what the committee decided, and if any committee members don't like what I say, or doesn't feel like it represents, please let me know. But I think the committee decided that we didn't want to have, or we didn't feel like we had legitimate jurisdiction over non-board members, and we wanted to make the chair of the committee, which would be a board member, I believe all the committee chairs, be responsible for the non-compliant member of that committee, and then could discharge them if they do something wrong, that type thing.
Sure, I remember that discussion. I do remember that, but the problem, there's two problems here. One is if you continue reading, or a complainant can be a member of the public. So
yes,
so that falls under the same category, and you're not excluding that. I don't think you can, because I think it's open to the public should be able to raise a concern. What I would suggest is, if you're going to limit a board committee member to a member of the public who's a committee member, then just state that simply for that particular category. That's just my suggestion, because you're not actually excluding a member of the public. And then how would you even apply a sanction to it?
Okay.
Well,
let me take that under advisement, because that does,
maybe it's just, delete or a complainant and leave it at a board or a board.
Yeah.
Because actually you can remove a committee, the neighborhood board can remove a committee member. The committee itself can say, we want to remove this person, and then it goes to the board and you remove that person. So there is a process for, but it's at the board level, not at the NCO level.
Yeah, it's just interesting as Greg brings up, that last sentence or statement is, or a complainant. And he's saying that the complainant could be a member of the public.
Yes,
so if we're gonna say,
absolutely, absolutely.
Sanctions on a complainant. That's actually in the current, that was kept from the current neighborhood plan. I'm not really sure why that, I guess you could, but then that should be a subject of a separate complaint, not the complainant themselves. I'm not sure why that's in there.
Well, it's been found before if both parties were guilty.
I did in my hearing.
The complainant and respondent could both be suspended.
Okay, yeah.
But that had to do at a board meeting, not at a committee meeting.
Exactly.
Right, but I mean, at least in this context, so that makes sense, okay.
Yeah, so I think that's why it's there, but maybe it's best to just take that out to clarify that you only are imposing sanctions on a board or a board member. You don't have to get in the weeds of which.
Say a complainant.
Does it have, do you have to write?
Yeah,
the respondent or complainant, or leave it at board or board member?
How about, maybe it should be specified, maybe we should say
And this is not in the current
Yeah.
language, so.
So maybe a board member complaint. So that way you make sure it's not a public member of the public.
Yeah, because you can't do anything to a member of the public, I
Yeah.
mean, you can't sanction the public,
So
so.
would that be
Yeah, we
okay?
agree
That's
on
right.
that.
So, yeah,
It's
so
just
we
you have
would
to
just,
list that.
so we would insert, well, but if you
Or
don't.
if you say something like, or a complainant, if the complainant is a board member.
A little cleaner, or a board member complaint.
Yeah, or whatever.
So that's, so is everybody okay with that language? That's probably, that's a good point.
That's-
Thank you,
yeah.
Gary. Thank you.
Excuse me, can I say something, please?
Yes, please, go ahead.
You know, I agree with some of the things you said, but like I said, it is the board members that's running a committee. But the board members also, which is the neighborhood board members, also have to collaborate. They have to communicate and not silence the committee when a committee has a concerns, because it's a conflict of interest. They're not listening to the committee. They're there to listen to the committee. They're not. Sometimes they turn around and they shut down the kupunas. And that's where I get angry. Not because they're old and you're going to silence them. So the committee needs to be transparent. And if you are a board member and we're bringing a complaint upon to a neighborhood board, you know, and I always had said that. But not because you are a board member means you're above the law. And if the board member do not listen to the committee and silence the committee because they want to see some kind of unethical behavior continue. So the board member has a responsibility as a committee member when they hold their own committee meetings, whether it's houseless or public safety, they are responsible. They know that they deserve and get responsibility duties. They have to come on the board. So we just want to be transparent, but you cannot silence the committee. If you're not going to listen to the committee, then do not be part of the committee. Do not be, you know, that's the concern we have in our district.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. So I think that we're done with looking at all the days and such.
Good job.
So next we're going to just talk about, if you flip over to page 8, and the only reason that we look at this is kind of a different way of petitioning the neighborhood commission. Kevin Lyon's testimony, he pointed this out. It was a great catch, but he pointed out some other provisions, but those dealt with like consulting the corporate counsel. I just don't think that they really applied. This is the interesting point. So any interested person may petition the commission in writing for a declaratory order. So the question becomes, is if someone submits this, does that stop, that 10 days rolling? And his question was that maybe, I think his point was, and I don't want to speak for him, I think he was suggesting maybe it should. And after kind of giving it some thought, I would say it probably should not, in the sense that it kind of really delays that time period yet again, and we really don't want that. So if someone is really unclear, I would say submit the complaint. I mean, I don't know, I don't know there's a right answer, so if there are any thoughts, but just be aware that that's something that we should consider, whether we want to stop that, I don't want to say tolling, I was going to say tolling of but start the timetable, let's say start the clock on that.
Is this something we get a read from Cora on? Because I think this gets into the weeds. Corporate counsel.
No, this is not the corporate counsel thing. This is from the commission itself.
Okay,
So
but is it something we could have Cora review and say, yes, that applies, or no, that doesn't, because this is getting into the legalese weeds, I believe, and.
I wouldn't think so, because that's kind of a procedural question. I don't think we're legally required. I don't think it's going to change the legal requirement as far as whether that impacts the complaint process. And obviously it didn't under the current plan. They didn't catch that if it's a problem.
Okay, well, I'm
Why
not
do we
going
need to put
to,
any kind of time limits on this?
Well, this isn't a time limit on
No, that's what I
this.
mean, there isn't
I'm
one
sorry.
now, so.
Well,
so
it
you're
was-
proposing that.
Well, I'm not really proposing, I'm just saying it was brought up as an issue I
Oh.
wanted the committee to think about. Whether there should be some stopping of the clock in terms of that 10 days from, whatever the event was or the infraction was. So would this stop it? Say someone did something wrong, like a chair did something wrong, and then someone wanted to submit this type of provision and say they wanted a declaratory judgment to say, hey, did the chair make a mistake? And before they actually submitted the complaint. So I just thought that the committee should be aware of this and think about it. I'm not necessarily suggesting, in fact, I'm not suggesting that we stop the time clock, but I wanted to make you aware of it.
okay, well, that would only be if somebody has filed a complaint already, right?
No, they're totally separate.
Okay, I find this very confusing.
So what this provision does, it's just someone saying, like, if, I'm just asking the NCO whether something's proper or not. It's a declaratory opinion. So I'm asking the NCO if someone violated the plan by doing X, Y, and Z, or just, explain what this provision means. What is the practical effect of this
Okay,
provision?
then I just think the
It's not a
NCO
complaint.
should respond in a timely fashion.
Actually, I don't.
Which should be less than 30 days, because there's nothing worse than somebody asking a question and it goes too long.
Actually, I don't know that these are really utilized. I think they just call the NCO and ask questions, quite
We
honestly.
say calls every day.
Yeah, I mean,
I
quite
call
honestly,
on it all the time, so
quite
yes.
honestly, this is, I don't know that this is really utilized. Do you know, Dylan? This section one,
I have never
211?
seen it in writing
Yeah.
come across our office, but it could have been done in the past. I won't speak to that.
So I really don't think it has
I
a
do
practical
think it
effect,
has been
but-
used in the past if somebody has put something in formal writing and they just want a
So I
record of
think
it.
if we receive that, this gets forwarded to the corporate council, right?
Well,
No,
no, it
no,
would
no,
be
it's just-
NCO would just deal with it. This is like,
Well,
Or if they could, but if they
Yeah.
couldn't, then we'll go to corporate council.
yeah, then.
Because it's asking for a ruling.
Yeah.
well, no,
It'd be a statute.
it's about the neighborhood plan. It's not about statutory stuff, because we can't rule on that whatsoever. This is all about like interpreting the plan. I mean, I don't,
No, it's just statute of ordinance relating to
Well,
the commission.
we can't do that. I mean,
Yeah, that's
period.
what I mean. So I think it would go directly to the corporate council.
Well, but that's what E is about. When questions of law involve the commissioner, should be like shall refer. Really,
Yeah.
To corporation council, but I would think so. Really, the only practical items would be interpretation of the plan. I mean, that would. Really
I
be-
would just say, for my practical purposes, I would just say within a reasonable amount of time, not more than 30 days or something like
Well,
that.
we don't have to set a time period. It's just I wanted to ask if it would impact that 10-day
I don't
ability.
see that would.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't hear anybody wanting that to impact. So go ahead.
Oh, I just have one hand raised from Greg.
Greg, go ahead.
Sorry, I was muted. So, yeah, it doesn't look like you're making any changes on that or adding the days. I was going to comment if on days if you were going to change. I do think it would be good to have a number of days to reply back, but I don't know that it's
Well,
required.
I would say that really what we're trying to do is just reform the complaint procedures. So I would be hesitant to kind of go out in the other parts of the plan and make any changes at this point. But I wanted the committee to be aware of this so that if it did impact the complaint procedures, the committee members could make observations or voice their concerns. So that was pure, it was purely more. Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
I'm sorry. The only other comment was there could be a statutory requirement for that section, especially where there's a section regarding the city and county. So that's the only other comment I was going to make. So ultimately, if there's changes that are proposed for that, I would, of course, run them by Corp Council, because that section would fall under the Corp Council possibly someday if it became an issue. Thank you.
Well, just to be clear, any revisions we do will be reviewed by Corp Council.
I
And we're
think-
not talking about, and so we're not making any changes to 2-11 at any time. So it will remain in the plan. It will not be amended at this time, just to be absolutely clear to everybody. Okay, thank you. So moving on our agenda, we have our flow charts. Someone asked me to do flow charts. I don't remember who, but I have them if you want to see. I'm not sure.
I'll take a flow chart.
Actually, I think we're gonna have to look at it online because
I can pull them up.
look at the complaint procedures in general. Unfortunately, I didn't bring my computer to look at them myself, so I'm gonna have to do it from memory. It's been a few.
Complaint flow chart. That's gotta be the one. There's quite a few flow charts.
Yeah, but it's the
think
complaint
you-
flow chart.
Okay.
We'll start with that.
That first one is it gets in the weeds.
Yeah.
All right, let me.
I
share
agree.
screen.
Actually, maybe we should do it the other way around. Go to number 1. So when you
Start
see
small.
/-1 and then it'll go 1 through 6 and it's the sub, okay, I'm sorry, let me change it. If we could just look at the whole thing first and everybody will say, wow, it looks really complicated. And then we will go 1 through 6.
Okay. So
And that way everyone can see the whole thing first.
I do have hard stop in it. I have a
Well, I
long
hope-
way to go.
Well, we've made all these voices.
Let me zoom in for you.
Hopefully
guys
we're zooming
here.
in. These are all on the shared drive, which is the top of our agenda, if people want to take a look.
Why can't I go up?
That's right, Kathleen. That's what they only have. It's not just, we're gonna try to see if we can pass this next time.
Oh, the next,
That's-
okay, I was gonna do my recommendations, so you
Okay.
can sit.
Well, we wanna make those little changes. And that's it.
Yeah, sorry. As I zoom in, it won't let me.
Okay,
I
well,
just wanna
let's,
go. Oh, there we go.
it's really complicated, yeah, you can see a little bit. We're gonna go through each segment, but basically, it'll start with a complaint coming into the office. You can see, there's an initial review, and I did put it on now. There is, actually, before it gets from the complaint received to the executive secretary, there is a break off that says, it's the analysis, is this a, what do they call it, a repetitive, vexatious, yeah. Is this a vexatious filer? And there's a process for that. That will be on another flow chart. But as you see, it goes to the executive secretary. We also see if it's a complaint against a board. In that case, we can ask, and that's a decision of the executive secretary and the commission chair, do we want to notify the board? If we do notify them, then we're supposed to notify them of the results also. So anyway, all the decisions are broken down there, and you can see there are 6 options. If we start, and it says combined complaint, well, that was before. It's actually like check for defects would be the first option, and that gets kicked back to the 2-person decision for whatever result. So you can have party conference and mediation. Those basically follow the same track. If you go to, let me just explain across. So you also have dismiss, forward to commission, and the agreement to no agreement. If the 2 parties can't agree, the 2 parties being executive secretary and the commission chair, then it will go directly to commission. So rather than going down, let's look at the specific processes. So if you would start with number 1. So this is very simple. If there's a defect, and boy, I cannot read it from here. So I have to do this from memory. If there's a defect, and like I said, it's combining or something like that, it just goes, if you can actually move it up a little. So if you see the executive secretary, the commission chair, if they agree that it has a defect, it's sent back to the complainant asking it to fix defects. They don't have to, but they have 10 days after the defect notice to fix the defect, or say they don't want to. I should put that in there. And then it just goes back, so we can go to number 2. So that's the first option. So this is the dismissal. I think I called this number 2. It doesn't matter what they are. I think I did based on the language, the numbers in the proposal. So if you have a dismissal, you have to have, that dismissal will be reported. And a report doesn't even necessarily have to be a written report, but there will be a report to the commission. Before it gets to the commission though, it will then, the results will be reported to the complainant. The complainant can decide whether to appeal that dismissal, and if they do not, within a certain time period, I think I forgot to put that on there, but if they do not, then the complaint is concluded, it does not go to the commission. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. So they have to appeal. All they have to do is say they appeal, and then with the recommendation of the executive secretary and the commission chair, then the commission will have the adjudicatory session. It's a review, and it's important to distinguish this review from the hearing. Yes, we always review first and decide whether it goes to hearing. So that's what that difference in language is. We can go on to the next one. So for here, this is the forward, I guess I can't remember why this got down. It was number 3, but anyway, this, because this is one of the options, I'm sorry. If the executive secretary and the commission chair decide, they can just forward it directly for review, and the commission reviews it, and there's 10 days to commission for review. What's the 10 days for a response? I can't remember. We'll have to go back to that.
Yeah.
I don't recall. Sorry. But the dash lines, those are time frames. They don't impact the process. They're just time frames. So if you go to number 4. Okay, so this is the parties conference. And with the dash lines, those are options, these dashes. The smaller dashes, I'm sorry, are the options. The larger dashes are comments, and those are time frames. So you have 3 options. You can have a conference with the chair, you can have a conference with the vice chair, you can have a conference with a third party. We don't define the third party. There you go. So we have a report with a recommendation from whoever chaired that conference. And the complainant can then look at the report. If they're happy with the report, it gets sent on with the recommendation to the commission. If they're happy. If they're not happy, then the complainant,
It's the opposite.
Yes, I misstated. I can't really read it very well. I'm trying to do some memory. If the complainant does not agree with the report, then it goes to commission. If they do not agree, or if they accept the report, then the complaint will be concluded. That's how it is. Sorry. Go on to my apologies. Number 5, I think. Right? So basically, mediation's the same kind of thing. There's a report. It's actually kind of the same process. You just don't have the other 3 options. If you get the report, does the complainant accept the report or want to have a rebuttal? If there's a rebuttal, it goes to the commission. That's it.
Question, Patrick.
Yes, shoot.
Is there, I didn't see it in the flow, is there a document for the parties to agree to mediation in writing? Sign up for that?
That's not reflected in the, it's not reflected in the flow chart, no. I really haven't considered, I don't know that we have anything in the plan that says if the parties do not agree to mediation. I mean, my feeling is if you don't agree, then it's not a good option. It would just go back to the executive secretary and the commission chair to pick a new option. I don't think, I mean, makes sense. How can you force mediation?
No, I'm just, in the process, in order to mediate, the parties always sign a document saying we agree to mediation. I'm
Right.
looking at the flow saying, is that in the start of the flow?
Well, it's not reflected in the flow chart now. I mean, I guess that would just be assumed, don't put everything in it, but yeah, it's not in there, sorry. I mean, that would just be a kind of,
That's a procedural thing.
that's procedural, yeah, I'll just have to
That's
have
the
it.
starting point.
Well, the starting point is, is the executive secretary and the commission chair deciding to send that to mediation. Obviously, if the parties don't agree, then there would have to be a different option. I would assume both parties have to agree to mediation. I don't know.
They have to agree. If they don't agree, then there's no mediation.
There's no mediation, they have to agree from the outset, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would have thought, so it's really not necessary to.
And if they don't agree in mediation, it's over.
Yeah.
Well,
then it
yeah,
would have
but
to be-
it's not in the flow though. It may be a no
But that's
to start
procedural,
that flow.
Steve. That's procedural, this is just going through the steps of what it would be, if they go to mediation, then you go to the report, and then they either appeal, they don't appeal, it's just a very basic step. But yeah, there's things in here that you're correct, that are missing, but those are the procedural things, the details. This is just the big picture.
Yeah, I think this is just give people an idea of what's happening.
You know, if I do this, this is what the steps are, if I do that, this is what the steps are, that's all.
Okay, thank you. So, ready for
Understood.
number 6.
Thank you, good point.
I can't, oh yeah, this is just if the executive secretary and the commission chair don't agree. So you can close that. I don't think that's pretty easy. It just goes directly to the commission. I think there's something down below about. If not, we can go back to the.
These are declaratory rulings, testimony.
No, so yeah, if you go back to the
We can
main
look at the
one.
big one.
Yeah.
There might have been one more.
Oh,
Complaints intake?
the hearings. Oh yeah, maybe the intake. I'm sorry, can we do the
So
intake
do
first?
intake first.
Okay, so this is what I meant was there's a couple checks when the NCO gets the actual complaint, and I am trying to read that.
I know, I'm trying to like show the whole thing.
Okay, is it filed within 10 days? That's the first analysis. And that's commission or the commission chair or the executive secretary. So is it filed? No. Yes, no.
Complaint is dismissed.
Yeah, complaint is dismissed.
If
Okay,
it's yes.
so then we go down, is it a vexatious filer? Then yes, then you have to ask the executive secretary, is it a valid complaint? And that language is obviously in the proposal. And if the executive secretary said no, then the complaint is dismissed. That's the whole idea behind vexatious filers. So assuming it is valid, then we have it where the complaint goes to the executive secretary and, the commission chair, and so they should consult. Once they do that, and there again, there's that complaint against the board. Do you want to notify? And that's a joint decision. It takes both to agree. If they don't want to notify, then there's no follow-up. If they do notify, then the way we have it written, the proposal is the board has to be notified of the results also. And then finally, they just select one of the 6 paths for the complaint. Thank you.
Which were?
And then you can go back to that.
This
Oh,
was
we
the
did.
same. Oh, yeah, sorry, back to this one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start from the top, I think.
Okay, I think this is the hearings process.
Yeah.
So when the session reviews, what happens when they review? They can initiate a hearing, no, they can dismiss it. If they don't initiate a hearing, or I guess we can't actually come up with sanctions before a hearing, can we? Under the current process?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so, so that's probably why I wrote it up that way. Okay, so we have to have a hearings if we want any type of, which makes sense, because.
It's a determination through.
Yeah,
You
how can
can't
we have
sanction
it?
if you don't know what's going on,
Right.
yeah.
So anyway, okay, so yes, you notify the parties by certified mail. Let's see, do you want? We'll basically review for next month. Thank you.
Oh, I promise I will.
Thank you. So do you appoint the hearings officer? Yes. The hearings officer conducts the hearing and issues a report. If you could scroll up just so we can see how that goes. Scroll up a little bit, please. So once you have the report, does the party object? If I didn't put the yes and no's there, I see. But if it's, or actually, even if the party objects, it just says the party may file an objection.
Mhm.
That's what it is, I'm sorry. And then that report, with any objection, the commission will review, and then the commission issues the decision. Okay, so we go back up.
Back up?
Yes, sir. So if you don't appoint the hearings officer, the commission schedules the hearing, then they hold the hearing, and those are just the dates, and those may have changed based on what we decided this evening. So if you go up. And then that's it, the commission issues a decision. and they decide if they want to impose sanctions, and that's really it. And if you go back to the master one,
Yeah. Sit them with it.
that complaint. So basically, that's all on there. Someone asked me for flowcharts, so I made flowcharts. There might be, there's a couple missing things from the master one, and there may be a little changes. I hope no one has questions, but
Wait.
no,
The
seriously.
document is the.
Oh yeah, this is not official.
Yeah, it's.
This
the-
is
it's
purely,
the written version.
yeah, purely for information purposes
It's a
only.
visual.
We're not gonna be held by it. So
I
anyway,
admire, Chair, I admire your flow charts. Being a healthcare person, we live by them. I admire your effort. This was not a 5-minute job, so thank you.
I think I died by the effort. Thank you, sir.
Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Steve.
I had a question. I was the one that suggested the flow charts from my engineering side. Thank you so much. The other comment though, when NCO and commission chair collaborate, and then there's a decision made, we've always had that decision presented to the commission for concurrence. I don't see that in the flow chart. Am I missing something?
Okay. There are a couple instances, for instance, if they make that decision to combine complaints, essentially we delegated that authority to the commission chair. Because, or combine a plan, or, to fix defects. So we delegate that decision to the commission chair and the executive secretary to identify those defects. But the complainant can keep the, whatever those folks deem the complaint, defects, they can keep those and it will come to the commission. So it goes back up to, if you think the flow chart, it goes back up to that group and then it's gotta go down another route. So the commission, if the complainant wants to keep it as it is, it will come to the commission. The other thing is for, if those two folks opt to dismiss, and then the complainant agrees, essentially they hear the reasoning and they agree with the reasoning, then the commission will never see it. But if the complainant does not and wants the commission to review, it will go to the commission. So essentially the only, on appeal. So essentially the only time the commission will not see the results of the executive secretary and commission chair's decision is when a complainant kind of agrees with whatever happens. So all it takes is for the complainant to say, no, I want my complaint to stand. All those decisions will be reviewed.
Basically, that's the same thing today, right? That's what happens.
Yeah. So just,
Thank you.
That's
As long as it's in the administrative area, then that's fine.
Yeah, it's just in selecting those options, we kind of delegate that. So, like I said, it will come to the commission if the complainant wants it to come to the commission. There's not really a way out, so. Okay? Okay, so what, thank you. Yeah, Maha, please.
Patrick, Chair, is this, this is like a draft, in a draft form, is this something that we could consider putting into the new neighborhood plan booklet for visual understanding, those that may need a visual understanding?
Oh, you're talking about the flow charts?
The flow chart, yes.
That would have to be a decision. I don't know. And then you'd have to make really careful that it's accurate.
You have to go through the full process of review and public hearing and all that.
Well, but the flow chart would just be informational.
Yeah,
So I don't, that would probably have to be a decision of the executive secretary if they felt it was useful enough. They could. I don't know. It'd probably have to be refined a little bit. So
Right.
I don't.
Right. I'm just thinking about people, neighborhood board members who they need tools such as this for better understanding. There may be some of them, because reading all of this, it's a little challenging with all the legalese, but the moment I saw your flow chart, I immediately could connect the dots much better.
Okay.
So just a thought, something maybe we could talk further about and maybe consider. That's just,
Okay,
you know,
thank you.
my,
I w-
my manao.
I would agree with that, Patrick.
Okay.
The information there is key. I think it is in a draft form. I think picking it up and refining it a bit more and making it available in the plan, I would agree with. There's good information in there, and it is self-explanatory. I would agree with uh, Commissioner Brunel.
Thank you.
And
Well, I would
you know,
advise that.
it's commissions, so we own it.
Okay. So let me talk about, if there are no further questions, let me talk about just the general path forward. It'll just take a few minutes to kind of go through this. Are there any hand raised, just to make sure? Okay, so what we have is, we have a couple of fixes in here. But it appears, you know, and so next month I can bring those. And then it appears like we're close to having a process in which we can accept and send on to the commission, I hope. So what I would ask is there are a couple little plant changes. I can make those in the next week. I can post it online. For everybody, just so everybody knows, I think Chair had a few little issues, but it will give you the generalized Google Drive for the commission. And then you have to go to committees, and then by year, I believe, and then put, it'll be in July's folder at that point. So please, that's how to check for it. But I'll put a modified version in there that will be reviewed next month. And hopefully we're at a point that we can make a recommendation to the commission. So if there are any big complaints about it or anything like that, please let me know and think about it in the back of your mind, because I think we're at that stage and it's ready to go, so just think about it. Yes, sir.
I understand that. If you bring it to the commission say we like this new complaint process, then what?
Okay, so thank you for that.
Because the whole neighborhood plans,
Yeah,
if you make changes to it, it has to go to public hearing and it has to go to
right.
the whole review process with corp counsel and all.
So-
And then it goes to the
Yeah, so
mayor, right?
what I would expect is, yeah, it would go to the commission. The commission decide whether they have any problems with any particular provision. And so once they have a version that they're acceptable with or accepting as a group, then it would go, I assume, to corporate counsel. At that point, once it gets in kickback, whatever changes they want us or require us to make. But to actually get where it becomes part of the plan, it has to go out to public hearing, and that would be set up by the commission.
Well,
itself.
that's the question, because I don't know how much longer it will take to finish off the rest of the plan, but usually, I know the complaint process was something we wanted to get into right away because we're having a lot, but how soon will it be before we can finish off the rest of the provisions and just do it once in terms of having a package of the whole plan and then you go to hearing one time? Rather than, if you just did the complaint process, then you would be amending just a part of the plan, not the whole plan.
Well, at the rate that we've gone through the plan,
Yeah.
it seems like it'll be quite a while before the rest of the plan is ready. So that's why the suggestion was, and if everybody remembers, we actually stopped what we were doing on the plan and went directly to the complaints for the purposes of just amending the complaint provisions, or that chapter 18. So that was sort of the overall plan, and I think we're pretty close. I think we're very close to sending it to the commission, and then it'll just take feedback from corporate counsel, and we'll have to see how it goes. But I was under the impression that the NCO, like Lloyd, I don't want to speak for Lloyd, but I was under the impression that they really wanted to see a change in the complaint procedures without waiting for the rest of the plan to be adjusted. So it was the intention to try to just modify the complaint procedures. So that's sort of the plan. Any questions? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, are we at the point then of folding in the recommendations from the survey committee?
You know, we really haven't considered those. If maybe next meeting, you want to, I don't know how many of those would involve the complaints. If maybe you want to give us a report on that would be great.
Not to complaints, but the line items from the survey committee that we provided you, if you want, I could even fold them into your form and line item on the forms, whatever way you'd like, or you can take it as it's been presented to you.
Okay, but how many, well, I guess, let me back up for a second. How many of the survey results actually concern the complaint process?
I'm not talking about just, I understand that, sir. I'm not talking about just the complaint process. I'm talking about the plan. Because you said presenting to the committee to review the plan, and like to see the recommendations from the survey committee considered for inclusion in the plan, not necessarily the complaint process. There may be some items, from what I recall, some items in there that may impact the complaint process, but not necessarily.
Well, I'm sorry, when I meant that we would present the plan, I meant only the complaint portion of the plan. I mean, that's the only thing
Okay.
we're going to the complaint.
That's fine.
So if there is anything in there in the survey material that is relevant to just the complaints, then yeah, it'd be great to hear about that. I'm sorry, I haven't reviewed that because I was kind of hyper-focused on just the complaint portion of this, and we can actually, when we go back to the rest of our the plan, then we can certainly hear about those. That would be good for us to hear.
Thank you.
So thank you.
That's fine.
Okay, so with that said, like I said, please review this, come up with any last concerns. I mean, it doesn't mean that we have to take it out of committee next month, but it would be nice. And so if you have any last thoughts, please let us know, and that goes to the public too. We're getting close to completion, I think, of the committee's work, at least for this portion. So any last thoughts? Does anyone have any? Let's move. I want to make sure I got through everything.
Chair?
Yes, Nehea.
I know that next month's meeting is scheduled for Monday, July 14th. I'm having a legislative recap town hall that my association is hosting. Is there any way that we could change the date of our July 14th meeting, if it's possible?
Well, how about the 21st?
The next following Monday?
Yeah, I mean, that's typical. Actually, I don't know why
I was gonna ask you.
I don't know why that got set for the 14th. I'm not sure. It was actually probably supposed to be the 21st, because that's when we've done it traditionally, the third Monday of the month.
Third Monday?
So is it 21st? Yeah, so do we want to change to the 21st? Hearing no objections.
Yes, please, if it's okay with the committee.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so certainly. Sorry, I think that probably should have been the 21st. Okay, so with that, we will meet on the 21st of next month, hopefully to have make a decision on that, but it'll see what happens. So everybody bring their last thoughts. Do we have any other announcements? Hearing none, that concludes our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you all.
Aloha.
Thank you.